In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what vibe coding is and what its real-world impact actually looks like.
All right, so here's the plan. We'll kick things off by defining vibe coding and seeing where it came from. Then we'll get into the benefits, what I'm calling the FAFO advantages. After that, we'll draw a really important line between vibe coding and something called vibe engineering. We'll also cover the risks and blind spots, because there are definitely some big ones. And finally, we'll look at what all this means for developers in the real world. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, from code to conversation. To really get what vibe coding is all about, you've got to look at how we build software today, because things have seriously changed.
So, what is vibe coding? Well, at its core, it's about shifting from typing precise code to, well, just talking to the machine. You describe your intent, the vibe you're going for, in plain English. You're focused on the what and how it should feel, and you let the AI figure out the nitty-gritty of the how.
Now, this didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? It's been a super fast evolution. Just think back to 2021. We had basic code completions with things like GitHub Copilot. Then, by 2023, we were having full-on conversations or chat coding with models like GPT-4o. And now, we're in the era of agentic coding, where AI agents can tackle problems pretty much on their own.
So, why is everyone so excited about this? The appeal of vibe coding is huge, and it all comes down to what I'm calling the FAFO benefits. Let's break that down.
First up, F for faster, and I mean dramatically faster. We're not just talking about spitting out lines of code here. The AI helps with the whole process, debugging, testing, even writing the docs. Tasks that used to take months, yeah, some of them can now get done in a day. It's wild.
And that speed leads directly to the A, ambitious. When things move this fast, developers can start thinking bigger. Those huge, complex projects that seemed impossible, suddenly they're on the table. But it also works the other way. You can knock out those small, nice-to-have features that never made sense from a cost perspective before.
Next up, A for autonomously. This is a big one. A single developer, working with a good AI agent, can now do the work that used to take an entire team of specialists. Just think about that for a second. All that time spent in coordination meetings, all the communication overhead, a huge chunk of that just vanishes.
The second F is for fun. And let's be honest, this matters. By taking over the tedious, soul-crushing parts of the job, like hunting for a missing semicolon for an hour, it lets developers get back to the part they actually love, the creative, problem-solving side of things.
And finally, O for options. This might be the most transformative part. Instead of having to commit to one path early in a project, you can now explore multiple solutions at the same time. You can spin up a few different prototypes, see how they actually work, compare the trade-offs, and then make a much more informed decision. That leads to way better software in the end. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Just blindly trusting what the AI spits out is, well, it's reckless. And this brings us to a really, really important distinction: the difference between vibe coding and vibe engineering. Simon Willison came up with the term vibe engineering to highlight this exact point. Vibe coding is kind of the Wild West. You just trust the AI, you don't really read or understand the code, you're just going for a quick result. Vibe engineering, on the other hand, is the disciplined, professional approach. You're still using AI agents, but you're integrating them into best practices. You review the code, you test it, and you actually understand what it's doing.
So what does vibe engineering look like in the real world? It's not magic. It's using the tools and practices we already know are good. You use version control, like GitHub. You have separate dev and production environments. You use feature branching. You write clear, structured prompts, like given, when, then, so the AI knows exactly what you want. And of course, you run security scans on everything.
All right, let's talk more about those risks, because despite all this potential, there are some major blind spots we have to be aware of.
And it's not just me saying this. Developers are really skeptical. This poll shows that a whopping 41% of them are actively avoiding vibe coding specifically because of security risks. They see the potential for things to go very, very wrong if you're not careful.
And that gets to the heart of the matter. It's not the coding itself that's expensive, it's the failure to think things through. The biggest danger here is for people who don't fully understand the complexity of the problem they're trying to solve. They write a simple, maybe even naive, prompt, and the AI diligently builds exactly what they asked for, which is often fundamentally broken. Just look at this conceptual architecture. It shows you how complex this whole process really is under the hood. It's not just one step. First, an intent parser has to figure out what you even mean. Then a semantic embedding engine translates that into a mathematical form the AI can use. Then the agentic code generator actually writes the code, and a feedback loop lets you refine it. A mistake or a misunderstanding at any of those points can cause huge problems down the line.
So the challenges are really varied. You have the obvious technical stuff, like security vulnerabilities in the code the AI generates, or creating black box logic that's a nightmare to maintain later. But you also have weirder problems, like the AI reintroducing old bugs because its training data is out of date. And then there's the big strategic fear. Are developers going to lose their core skills if they rely on this too much?
And look, these aren't just academic concerns. This shift is already having a dramatic impact on the job market and creating a totally new reality for developers.
The numbers here are just staggering. Between the first quarter of 2023 and 2025, job postings for software developers dropped by 70%. 70%. The market for junior developers in particular has basically collapsed because AI is now doing a lot of the routine work that used to be how people got their start in the industry.
So what we're witnessing is this fundamental shift in what a developer's job is. The hands-on keyboard stuff, generating code, debugging, writing documentation, that's increasingly becoming the AI's job. The real value from the human expert now comes from the strategic work that happens before any code gets written, defining the problem space, designing a solid architecture, and being the ultimate guardian of quality.
And this brings us to a quote from Martin Fowler that feels more relevant than ever. Any fool can write code that a computer can understand. Good programmers write code that humans can understand. In the end, AI isn't going to make great programmers obsolete. If anything, it makes them more critical than ever. Because that ability to deeply understand a complex problem, to structure a solution, and to create something that is not just functional but also elegant and maintainable, well, that's a skill that an AI just can't replicate.